Hey everybody, welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. Today I'm going to talk about a few things, but I'm going to start with what is Governor Gavin Newsom doing? The short answer is he's reclaiming reality. Gavin Newsom's trolling campaign is a targeted campaign to reclaim the truth and reality. It employs basic reverse psychology to mirror the absurdity of Donald Trump's alternate reality. Purpose drives Governor Newsom. He understands that the only way to restore sanity is to highlight the insanity in a way that forces Donald's enablers to respond one way or another, while exposing the hypocrisy of their attacks on Newsom and their silence on Trump distorting reality for years in the most obnoxious manner. It's necessary resistance that nobody has thus far been able to come up with and master. The whole Democratic Party has important lessons to learn from how Governor Newsom's approaching the crisis of truth our society is currently facing. Here's a suggestion. Look at his purpose before criticizing his methods. Follow his methods towards the same intended purpose. A laser-focused exposure of the absurdity with which Donald creates his alternate reality to distort the truth. When the absurdity is exposed, the lies become apparent. The danger becomes clear. Reality sets in, and people are shaken from their numbness because they see urgency of collective action. In today's world where Donald has normalized absurdity and used it as a tool to distort the truth, only a committed satire of his absurdity can break the spell and show people the real troubles headed our way. If you'll notice, since Gavin Newsom has started this trolling campaign, Donald's been using his caps less and less. He still does it. There are a few posts here and there. He'll still use it in posts, but sparingly. He's also going on the attack with Gavin Newsom being a wacko and always calling him Newscum. That's neither here nor there. But what it shows is that Republicans and Donald Trump is clearly frustrated with what Gavin Newsom is doing because Newsom is neutralizing Donald Trump's exclamatory presence online. You see, it's being dampened by Gavin Newsom's trolling. In the same way, California has headed the country because Donald Trump went first to Los Angeles in pushing back against Donald Trump's illegal executive orders, which currently there's a Ninth Circuit ruling that stops the federal government from their illegal raids absent reasonable suspicion. And I recently saw that there was such an occasion in Linwood, California, that happens to be in the Central District of California. So my first question was, the city of Linwood needs to file a suit and show for equitable relief to stop the federal government from performing these raids as they go against the Ninth Circuit's ruling that applies to the entire district, Central District of California. So it is difficult for Donald Trump to go into a city and commandeer a city commandeering a city in a state is difficult because under the 10th Amendment protections, there is state autonomy, and the federal government cannot come in and exercise control over state and city resources and impose federal regulations through state authority, through state personnel, and especially not so when there is no permission given by the governor of that state, and the governor of California did not give the National Guard that permission. Donald Trump federalized the National Guard, and therefore you see that case is now in the courts in trial as violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. And Donald Trump didn't go into the Los Angeles Police Department or any of the other state authorities like the State Trooper or Los Angeles Police or Linwood Police and ordered them to do anything for federal purposes. That would be illegal commandeering. So, in that regard, what Donald Trump wants to do with Chicago, he keeps pointing to Chicago next, he won't be able to exercise the sprawling control that he has been able to in Washington, D.C. Many people are saying, what's going to stop him? He's going to send the guard and D.C. guard, and he's going to send federal agents there anyway. Well, there will be resistance. There will be resistance through the courts. There will be resistance by the city officials who will also go to the courts. There will be resistance by the people on the streets. And that is about Donald Trump's police state encroaching into state authority. And California is leading the way, and Donald Trump will not be able to do that in Chicago as easily as he has been able to do that in Washington, D.C., which is not part of a state, which does not have 10th Amendment protections. It only has protections of the Home Rule Act, which is currently being litigated in the courts. But for deploying the National Guard, Congress and the President control the National Guard, and the President is the Commander-in-Chief of the D.C. National Guard. So the leeway there is far bigger and wider than they would have in any other National Guard like they've seen in California. Same thing would happen in Illinois or any other Democratic states where Donald Trump tries to intrude on state power. So another way that Gavin Newsom is leading is by neutralizing the redistricting efforts that are being influenced by Donald Trump, like in Texas and Florida and Indiana. Texas has already passed a law that will redistrict the states. In response, Gavin Newsom has signed into law a referendum that will put the issue of redistricting to the people in November. Two methods are very different. California goes about it by passing legislation that will put it to the people whether there should be redistricting or not. Texas, on the other hand, goes about it by passing legislation to redistrict, by bypassing the people's will or putting it to a referendum. And then you have MAGA and people on the far right claiming that, oh no, Texas is actually a response to California. No, it's not. Donald Trump has been putting pressure on and asking Greg Abbott and other red state governors to redistrict so he can have 100 new seats in Congress. How he wants that, God only knows. So blue states, including need to do what California has done. Illinois, New York, New Jersey, other blue states with supermajority blue populations should put it in referendum in the 2025 November elections that happen locally and statewide all over the country, that whether Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and other states with Democratic majorities should also redistrict in response to the unconstitutional redistricting happening in the other states, because there's no other way of countering the redistricting that is happening by Donald Trump's direction in Texas and in the other states. If it is shown that Donald Trump is as aggressively going to Ron DeSantis and also the governor of Indiana and other red states to tell them to redistrict, that would be illegal, directly contravening the Constitution, because the Constitution gives states and Congress power over elections, and the president doesn't have any power whatsoever to interfere, influence, or in any way get in to election matters. So that is a constitutional violation on its face when Donald Trump tells Greg Abbott to redistrict Texas. Greg Abbott then goes ahead and redistricts Texas based on his supermajority in the legislature, and by way of doing that bypasses the people of Texas without putting it to a referendum. So it would be, when these cases will be litigated, somebody's going to litigate California's past law as well as what the results of, even putting that to the test. I believe that the federal courts, when it comes to election law, and I don't know election law all that well, when they look at California and Texas, it is much more likely that they will uphold California's law versus Texas's, because it goes through the people by asking people whether to redistrict midstream or not. Because redistricting happens on the basis of the census, and census happens once every decade. And what Donald Trump and Greg Abbott are doing is a mid-decade redistricting plot, which I believe is an electoral insurrection. And that's what we're seeing unfold in our country. And we have Gavin Newsom standing and leading the movement to counter that war that is coming to us, this electoral war, this police state war that is headed our way. And then you're seeing Donald Trump spread his wings with the police state and weaponizing the police state after his political opponents by searching John Bolton's home. John Bolton is the first. He's not going to be the last. My question is, who will Donald go after next? Will it be James Comey? Will it be James Clapper? Will it be Miles Taylor? Will it be Colonel Vindman? Will it be other people that have been vocal critics? Will it be Bob Woodward? Will it be people in the news who have written about him? Who will it be? Because Donald Trump can go after them now in this radicalized, weaponized police state that Donald Trump is implementing. And slowly, when the ICE army, the DHS army is fully staffed, we're going to see Donald Trump's federal army rolling down the streets, trying to steamroll states and states' rights, and doing his best to invade into the personal autonomy of people, breach our constitutional rights, deny due process, illegally confine immigrants, homeless people, mentally ill people, disabled people, political opponents, people in communities that are anti-Trump, by anything from withholding funding to going after leaders of those communities Donald Trump can do. And not to take away from all of these real concerns, I want to remind you that the Epstein scandal still goes on. In my opinion, screw Maxwell. Screw Maxwell's testimony. All of that doesn't matter. What matters are the survivors and victim statements that are in the Epstein files with the government. And the only purpose of exposing the Epstein files and releasing them is to hear the stories of these survivors and also the victims who didn't make it. So we know the extent to which Epstein extended into the political world, and whether or not we currently have a president sitting in the Oval Office who is a child molester. We have a right to know that. Keep in mind the big, beautiful bill cuts to the environment, setbacks by expanding coal and deliberately sabotaging the wind energy industry and the solar energy industry by not only taking away subsidies, but also taxing them more. There's a mass firing of federal workers, banning of the trans in the military, and denying trans people their benefits under the military when they are let go. The threat to the closing of rural hospitals and rural schools, the end to education funding in colleges and research funding in colleges, the vast problems with allowing even the proper operation of the Social Security Department to be able to get the checks to the people who have earned them, because Social Security is your earned benefit, then cutting billions of dollars from Medicaid, cutting the food assistance programs that will affect the poor, same way as taking away hospitals and schools, public schools, will have an impact on rural and poor populations. And to public education, public health, all of these cuts, they are coming, they're already pinching on people's community efforts to stem diseases, to be able to allow for businesses to thrive in those communities. Donald Trump's policies, all the way from his police state policies to his tariff policies, have caused businesses to lose money and grocery prices to go up, skyrocketing electricity costs, skyrocketing fresh produce costs, at the same time as disappearing food assistance and problems to the Social Security system. These are all problems that Americans are dealing with or will be dealing with in the near future. And we can't take our attention from any of them. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for understanding that what I'm doing is an ethnography from an American citizen's point of view who is sitting outside the United States, helpless to be able to physically do something, but wants to get you the information I believe that you need to be able to navigate in the world where Donald Trump is unfurling his authoritarian state and inching closer to a fascist state by exercising control over industry, which in a manner he will do that is, I don't believe is socialist, is I believe more authoritarian and fascist when he actually starts exercising that control on private industry. And then, you know, the billionaires and the multimillionaires will realize that Donald Trump is not really for them either, so they will have to bow like they're bowing now, but even more so because the government will have been militarized and Donald Trump will become a full-time dictator. That's what we are resisting. That's what we are standing up against. That's what we are alerting everybody to. And that's what I am doing every time I come out here to talk to you. So thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll talk to you soon.